It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Don't just take our word for it that the world and society kind of gets it wrong. We wanted to kind of give you some practical real world examples, and we sort of what I love is it's like a little time capsule of real world examples because it doesn't change.
Well, I thought it was you're being sweet, but what we really did was we did what was Brian's idea, which was Robin Leach and
Right.
Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Yep.
Because I'm older. And then Bo's idea was
Mine was cribs. When I was coming up, you used to see cribs. Well, then, one of the things that keeps our content and all of our stuff so fresh is that our team is young and vibrant. And so I thought I was the young guy, and I was like, oh, no, cribs is the thing. And they're like, no, are you kidding me? What? That's like reruns, right? That's like the old stuff. What they said is, no, there's a better example of what the rich and the famous are doing these days, and that's the Kardashians.
Well, and think about it. The Kardashians have actually made an entire empire off of just basically their lifestyle.
Yep.
Because I mean, there's all kind of discussions. We even in the show meeting we were trying to figure out which one of the Kardashians was the richest,
Has the highest net
because
worth,
I think the one I don't know. I know Kim but
I think the
upper left is who?
Kendall, right?
Kendall is she a billionaire?
I think she's a
somebody told
billionaire.
me she was a
She's on the
billionaire?
Forbes billionaire list, which is pretty
So
remarkable.
I mean that's pretty incredible when you can turn a lifestyle into products. I think they do makeup lines and
that kind of
apps
stuff.
and other stuff, but that's kind of wild. So, but they're also putting out an image. I think you cannot tell me, by the way, nothing that you see within that sphere of reality TV is really tied to reality.
Sure.
A lot of that is structured. A lot of that is choreographed. So I want to tell you, I want to kind of open the curtain, let you see what's really going on so you can make sure you make the right decisions and let this stuff be entertainment, but not let it be the compass that guides you towards how you live your life.
Yeah, and so I think one of the things that's happened is when we think about like wealthy people, when we think about folks who've had financial success, there are certain things that kind of come to mind. You know, you think of like big houses or big whatever. And so we said, let's look at some of the items that people associate with wealth and kind of look at the data behind them, some of the figures behind them.
Well, and I thought it was let's talk about some of the trappings,
Sure.
because that's what the first thing. And I've fallen prey to this.
Yep.
And I want to help you guys learn from what I've learned. And the first thing, I think a lot of people now, I don't think the younger generation falls in this
No.
trap, but if you go to Las Vegas, between every big casino, it seems like the walkway between all the big casinos, they've put malls, and in between these malls and inside these malls, there's always these luxury goods. It's always going to be the designer purses, the designer watches. And I was out there with a friend last January. It was his wife and my wife. We did a couples trip out there. And we stopped in. He's a big watch guy. And we
Sure.
stopped in every watch store. There's brands that I didn't even know existed, because I thought, luxury watch, Rolex.
Rolex, that's the
and
one.
then he said there's all these brands above it. And he's trying these things on, and I'm sitting there thinking, not interested.
Yep.
And I think that this is part of what society pushes forward, or the media pushes forward, because they tell you, hey, if you're successful, one of the trappings you're going to have is that luxury
fancy watch.
But the data actually doesn't say that that's necessarily rich people that are buying those luxury watches.
What we found is that 74% of Rolex owners make less than $120,000 a year. Now, don't mishear us. We're not suggesting that $120,000 a year is not a fantastic household income, but when you look at the cost of one of these watches and the cost that it could become, because there's a pretty wide range, that's a substantial chunk of your income if you're making less than $120,000 for something that you could get utility from for a much lower cost.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. I mean, look, and $120,000 is a great income, but you shouldn't have 5 to 7% of your annual income in something that could fall off your wrist.
That's exactly right.
Or a magician could take it at a dinner party.
Yep.
I mean, it's that type of stuff. And here's what I think. I think the new trend, because I told you I've fallen in this trap. When I was in my early 30s, started having a little success. What's funny is I think I was probably right around this stage of income. I did buy myself a Rolex.
Yep.
And
As a reward, you set a goal.
yeah,
and when
I
you hit
set a
that
goal when my income hit a certain level, and I would do the Rolex. It just sits in a drawer now. I have
Yeah.
insurance, and by the way, it costs me money because I have insurance on
insured,
it,
sure.
and it just sits in my drawer. I get much more utility out of this Apple Watch,
Yep.
and I think that's starting to be the trend of younger people.
Absolutely.
Is that I see, like it was interesting after Christmas. I noticed FTE Daniel sitting in the content meeting. I look to my right, and I'm like, he's
scroll,
rocking. He's
scroll. Yeah.
rocking the Apple Watch now.
I
So
love it.
I think we're pretty much. Nate, you got the Apple Watch?
No, not
So
yet.
what are we? 3 out of 5? Yeah,
Yep,
3 out of 5. So
Don't
that's
worry, it's coming.
pretty impressive. So what's the next thing was cars.
Yeah, the other thing that's really interesting is when people think about success and they think about wealthy people, think, oh, they must drive like the really fancy, really nice car.
Well, Dave Ramsey even mentions, I think part of his big Yale mantra was, a BMW is no longer kind of your goal for being success. It's a paid off.
It's a paid off
life,
That's
essentially.
Right. And what we found is that the median income of luxury car buyers, and we're talking about luxury brands here, so BMW, Mercedes, fill in the blank, is actually less than $100,000 a year. And what's great is Daniel let us kind of dive into this a little bit even geographically. He found that Georgia as a state has the highest luxury car ownership at 14.2% of the population are luxury car owners. So Georgia likes buying nice cars. In Texas, they actually had the lowest median income for luxury car buyers at about $84,000. So in Texas, the median income was lower, but they're still buying luxury cars.
I don't know if that's cost of living or if they're just bad decision makers.
Everything's a little bit bigger there, I hear. In Ohio, the median income is at the high end for luxury car buyers. So folks in Ohio that buy luxury cars actually have a median income of about $156,000. So now that's kind of...
So we have 2 former Ohio residents. Would y'all say that's because y'all are better decision makers in Ohio?
More they're nodding.
Look at them. They are totally nodding. I think that's awesome.
And so, I'm sure one of them put this in. The study found that people in the Midwest seem to be more financially responsible, at least when it comes to luxury car purchases. Don't mishear us. We're not saying that luxury cars are bad. It's not a negative thing. But if you are someone who's going to purchase a luxury car, you want to make sure that you're following the appropriate order of operations. And when you buy it, you're buying it for a reason that's not setting aside your other long-term financial goals.
Well, first, luxury cars should be paid for same as cash.
That's right.
I mean, you're not financing luxury cars for an extended period of time. That's why we have the 23-8 provision, where it's 20% down payments. Don't finance it for more than 3 years on an amortization, no more than 8%. And that's only on regular cars, not luxury. And then there's another caveat is that you always need to be investing more than your car payment.
Absolutely.
If you have $1,000 car payment and only putting $300 a month in your Roth, you're doing it completely wrong.
Right.
So don't get those backwards. But here's the other part I found interesting. When we think of luxury cars, these are not cars that are probably $25,000.
No,
These are cars that are $40, $50, $60, even $70,000, $80,000. We know that from Stop Acting Rich, another book by Dr. Thomas Stanley, the late Dr. Thomas Stanley, he found that the median price for millionaires on car purchases is right above $31,000.
So when I hear that, that does not scream to me luxury car.
That sounds like used car to me.
That sounds like a used car, maybe a very affordable new car. That does not scream trappings of success, which shows that millionaires, on average, are probably pretty reasonable when it comes to their car purchases.
Well, in the stat, we've done this on other shows. The average cost for a new car in the United States is $34,000. A little over $34,000. So millionaires definitely pay less
than average.
The other thing I thought was interesting is that the average auto loan now is 72 months. So for a full 6 years, and we know cars depreciate like a rock.
Can I tell one brief aside really quickly?
Go ahead.
So yesterday, as we have some inclement weather here, and my wife had a little bit of an accident.
Yeah.
And fortunately, she was fine. The kids were fine. But I'm thinking the car's probably going to be totaled, right? I think they're probably going to total the car. I can't tell you how sick I would be if I was thinking to myself, man, I bought this car and I financed it over 72 months.
Yeah.
And then something out of our control, bad weather, ice in the road, she slides off, and the car's totaled, and the insurance company says, hey, we're not going to fix this. We're just going to give you a check for what it's worth. And they give me that check, and I look at it, and I say, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I owe more on this car than what this check is worth. Yeah, it stinks that this life thing happened to us, but thankfully the car was paid for. We owned it outright, so we don't have to deal with, oh no, what to do now. If you're financing your cars over 60, 72, 84 months, it is a ticking time bomb for some things that possibly are outside of your control.
Well, and I've had some people in the comments section have really gotten confused on this because they say, look, car loans are so cheap, practically at 0%. Why wouldn't I take as long as they would give it to me at 0%? The thing I always share with everybody is, look, this car is depreciating so quick. You don't want to get in a situation just like Bo described, where you lose the car, you owe more than the car is actually worth because now you've gotten yourself in an underwater
pickle.
situation.
Yep.
It's better because these cars depreciate so quickly to pay them off rapidly, even if you get one of those great low rates or even a 0% rate. Just pay attention because depreciation is horrible.
So we know that millionaires, folks that are successful, I'm going to say wealthy, rich people, they don't focus on the trappings of success, the fancy cars, the watches, the expensive things. So we said, okay, well, what are the things that wealthy people focus on? What are some data nuggets we could give you guys to show you what wealthy people focus on and spend their time doing?
Yeah, so we actually have something that it's the habits of wealthy people. Yep. We've compiled this. We've covered it before in other shows, but I find it interesting is because wealthy people, if I was trying to think about from my own experience, I do think they focus on exercise, and we'll confirm that in a second.
That's right.
I think they focus on how they use their time because we even realize the Millionaire Next Door talks about traits, and they focus their time well in a very organized way that will help them. They're effective allocators of their time resources. What did we find? Because I think that's what a lot of these habits will illustrate.
Yeah, some of the things I think that were really interesting is that if you look at millionaires on average, I'm going to talk about their time first. They spend a little bit less than an hour a week playing video games. If you look at the average American, they spend almost 2 hours a week playing video games. So the millionaire is about half of what the average American does. So then you think about, okay, where do they spend their time? Millionaires on average spend about 5.5 hours per week reading, only about 2 hours for the average American. So rather than, again, not suggesting that video games are bad or if that's something you enjoy that you shouldn't do it, but it is interesting. The thing that millionaires do seems to be about expanding knowledge, increasing knowledge base, doing something in that. They also prioritize not only keeping their mental well-being strong, but also their physical well-being. They spend about 5.8 hours, almost 6 hours per week exercising. Average American only spends about 2.5 hours per week exercising.
So essentially sharpening the brain through having a healthy body, as well as just having a curiosity. I mean, you guys have probably seen the same anecdotal stuff I've seen out on the internet where somebody was talking about how do you tell if somebody has a high IQ, and somebody did an experience share with Elon Musk, is that he was doing an interview, and one of the people that was doing the job interview came from a chicken farm, grew up on a chicken farm. Sure. Elon Musk spent the entire interview questioning what is it like to run a chicken farm. Just
because he was so curious.
And the takeaway was he was truly curious about the logistics of running a chicken farm. And I think that's the thing that when you see that successful people are reading twice as much as the average American, I think that is the indicator of curiosity, and curiosity is an indicator of intelligence. So guys, start doing the habit of always being a student of life and expanding your skill set, expanding your knowledge, because I find I even learn a lot more. And look, I come from a dyslexic ADH background. Yeah. You can do audiobooks and still get a lot and really get the brain working in the same way as if you're not the type of person that does it the traditional reading method too.
What I love this, Brian. If you're out there and you're listening on like Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, one of those, we do these shows live, right? And so this show right now live, we have an audience in here that's giving me some feedback in our chat section. And a lot of folks are saying, hey, where can I get this? Where do you have this infographic? Can I grab it? You know, this is just something we sort of created internally. Reeves, maybe we should turn this into something we can make available as a deliverable. But if you do want to know more, if you want to kind of understand what the portrait of a millionaire looks like, you can go to our website, go to moneyguy.com/resources. And we actually have a deliverable that's titled The Portrait of Today's Millionaire that kind of walks through some different sections of what millionaires do, how they behave, what they look like. If this is something that you're curious about, go to the website, moneyguy.com/resources. Check out this deliverable, share it with your friends, and let people see that you know what real millionaires look like, not what the world tells you they look like.